Hi, my name is Gretchen Roberts, and today we'll be discussing nursing burnout and ways to overcome it and keep staff able to work the way that they need to. Topics we'll be discussing are as follows: burnout, the reasons why, options and alternatives, and solutions. Nursing burnout isn't something new. It's been around for a long, long time. However, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the rates have drastically increased. Burnout isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something that needs to be controlled and worked through. It is often triggered by uncontrolled, persistent stress brought about in the workplace. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by three dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feeling negativism or cynicism related to one's job, reduced professional efficacy. Burnout refers specifically to phenomena in the occupational context and should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of life. That's according to the World Health Organization. Burnout is not classified as a disease. To start with, there is a shortage in nursing and in all healthcare professions. There has been for quite a long time. However, it's not improving. There are many reasons why there is a nursing shortage, and this also increases rates of burnout for nursing. For starters, veteran nurses are retiring from acute care, and new nurses are often ambitious and looking to further education for more prestigious roles in healthcare. There is a trend where new nurses have a higher tendency to leave nursing altogether within the first few years of practicing. Part of this is due to the realization of heavy workloads and responsibilities that are demanded by this profession. Compounded with the pandemic that we've been dealing with for the past few years, everything has changed. Nursing student numbers are not equivalent or able to satisfy the number of positions that need to be filled. Current retention strategies are becoming outdated and insufficient to keep nurses in their current roles. There are plenty of nurses in nursing school. However, with a growing population and aging adults who are going to need even more care, we simply do not have enough. Overall, the entire nursing profession needs to be revamped for healthcare facilities to survive. And if nurses and other healthcare professionals don't step in and handle this, there's a good chance that somebody else will take over, and those results might not be as desirable. 95% of nurses have reported feeling burned out over the past 3 years. Only 15.6% of nurses felt burnout in 2019, but since the start of COVID-19 pandemic, that number has drastically risen to 62%. Up to 30% of all U.S. nurses quit their jobs in 2021. 27% of nurses who quit have cited burnout as their main reason for doing so. The current annual turnover rate for nurses is 27.1%. These statistics are just mind-blowing. So a little bit more on reasons why burnout is growing in healthcare. As we mentioned, almost 3 million U.S. nurses report feeling burned out. At least 25%, a quarter of all nurses, have been experiencing burnout symptoms. 85% of nurses experience career fatigue. And the number one reason nurses are quitting is feeling overworked. Another trend that has been going on, especially since the pandemic has started, is the amount of nurses leaving their traditional local hospitals and healthcare facilities where they had been working at to make more money as travel nurses. So these long-established, experienced nurses are choosing to go where they can be for a short period of time, partly because the money is better. They get to travel, they get to meet new people, but it's definitely hurting hospitals because then hospitals have to pay more to have travel nurses, and the cycle just continues to grow because then the existing nurses are seeing how their counterparts in the travel agency world are making significantly more. So those who can, sign on. Here are some options and alternatives to help reduce burnout. Motivation. One of the best examples of any type of motivation is actually listening to feedback from your staff. Take the time to hear what is being said. Even if it's a criticism, questions, concerns, hear what they have to say. Collaborate on solutions with them. Don't just blow people off or give them a little bit of a fluff answer. Increasing benefits is another way. Focusing on mental health, trainings, possibly even establishing a scholarship for those who are looking to grow with the company, further their education. That gives them the motivation to do it, even if they don't necessarily have the money. Boost incentives if possible. Look at offering bonuses or different ways to recognize. Yes, everybody loves when somebody brings in donuts or you have a pizza party, but those aren't real ways to motivate. Those are just symbols and gestures of appreciation. Now, this cannot go without saying how important it is. Hiring the proper staff. Make sure you get the right people on your team. You don't want to hire a body to fill a position. You want to find the right person. Actions that can be taken. Bringing back LPNs and unit coordinators, for example. Many years ago, LPNs were phased out of hospitals, their jobs being split between the patient care techs and the RNs. However, now going back, the value that LPNs bring is being recognized. They're able to work hand in hand with the RNs. So if there is a task that an LPN is not able to do, the LPN goes to the RN and that nurse is able to help. And then there are some tasks that they can take off of the PSAs, and then the PSAs have more time to do bathing, helping the patients, moving them around, making sure that all of their needs are being met. Unit coordinators are another role that have been phased out. These people specifically support the nursing staff. They answer the phone, they scan documents, they answer call lights, they call for orders for doctors. Whatever needs to be done that is not clinical, they're able to take those tasks, and it eases the burden of the RNs. That will decrease the rate of burnout. Possibly look at redistribution of tasks. If you have assigned jobs to each person each shift and the same people get stuck with the same things, that's going to add to frustration. So maybe rotate it. Ask for feedback on things that maybe they really like doing or they're really good at doing. Implement team and eliminate hierarchy. So by this, you're wanting to make sure that your team is an actual team, a family. When you put people in a hierarchy saying most tenured nurse who's been here for 20 years to the person who just started 6 months ago, if they feel that that is where their value is least to greatest, why would they want to try? It doesn't give them any reason to take action and do anything better. Another valuable thing to learn is that leaders are coachable. Leaders need to be able to give feedback as well as receive it. Same thing goes with coaching. Every once in a while, you may encounter a leader who has behaviors that really don't seem to be very helpful. So when this happens, their staff needs to know that they can go to them and coach them up, give them that feedback, and that it's going to be listened to. Following up. Have meetings virtually and in person with staff as a group and individually. This allows a more of a familiar feeling, and it allows for everybody to feel they have a voice to share. Find ways to connect with your staff. Circle back to previous issues. So the very first thing we talked about under motivation was listening to that feedback. Okay, great, so you've listened to it. But what action are you going to take? And are you going to go back to that person and thank them for bringing this concern to your attention so that you can make progress in correcting it, whatever that issue may be? That will leave them feeling that they were actually listened to and what they say matters. And then lastly, find out what is working and what isn't. Tweak it if you need to. Maybe change it up. Find different solutions. Prevention. We've heard this saying before. If you can prevent it, then maybe you can cure it. Find out what each staff member needs goes a long way. Staff tend to be more open and honest with leaders who care and are willing to collaborate instead of just being the boss. Building a team atmosphere, as I mentioned before, rather than focusing on the individual. Working together promotes each member's strengths and allows them to improve on weaknesses. Now this graph we're looking at, compared to just a few years ago, how has your work affected your free time? As you can see, there's a great range where a lot of people, almost a fourth, are saying that they have way less free time than they did. They have slightly less time, just around 17%. 38% say it's about the same, but only 7% of people are saying that they have more free time than they did a few years ago. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. That's a quote from Walt Disney. Decades ago, hospitals began eliminating the LPN positions, believing RNs were the best way to go. Now, as I mentioned before, hospitals are viewing the value that LPNs bring to that organization. Adding the unit coordinators, or UCs, to staff eases the tedious workload placed upon RNs, LPNs, PSAs by simply moving non-clinical work to the UC, which frees up time for better use at clinical tests and what they're actually trained and educated to do. So building a team. First, you start with your nurse managers. They are the leaders, the heads of this team. They make sure to establish needs for the unit that they're in charge of. They also finalize the scheduling demands. Then you have your clinical leaders. They are the team leads. They're the bridge between the managers and the staff, and often they're the ones who were there when the leaders aren't. They do the pre-scheduling or the first steps of scheduling before handing it off to the management. They also determine assignments given for each shift. Then you have your RNs, who usually are also the clinical leaders and the nurse managers. That's one of the requirements for those roles. They handle all the advanced patient clinical care, and they also partner with the LPNs and the PSAs to make sure everybody's able to get the tasks done. The LPNs, they're responsible for the regular patient care. They know if there is a task that they cannot do, they go to the registered nurse so that they can get their expertise. They fill in the gaps between the RNs and the PSAs, allowing everybody to have an easier workload. Then you have the PSAs, or the patient support assistants, or the nursing techs. They complete non-clinical clinical patient care. They assist with more basic care needs and tasks. For instance, bathing, getting food ordered, things along those lines. Taking the vital signs. Then you have the unit coordinators. They scan and file the paperwork that often gets stacked up and causes overtime because the nurses and the rest of the staff have to stay over to make sure that all the paperwork gets done. They answer phones and check call lights. They're able to verify orders, and most importantly, they stock supplies to make sure that the nursing staff has everything that they need to take care of their patients properly. In summary, soothing the sources of nursing burnout leads to higher employee satisfaction. Having a team who works well together takes time and consideration, but it is not impossible. Staff need leaders who are followable and able to receive and give feedback. People want to have somebody to believe in as their leader. And if leaders can listen to staff concerns, find workable solutions, and recognize victories, makes soothing the burn crucial for success. Thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know.